The Galactic Council chamber was a symphony of chaos. Representatives from dozens of star systems, their unique appearances as varied as their homeworlds, shouted over one another in a cacophony of fear and frustration. Holographic images of Nicara Prime under siege hovered in the air, a stark reminder of the stakes at hand. The Ankai Empire's warships filled the skies, their devastating plasma cannons reducing cities to ash. Across the galaxy, the message was clear: no one was safe. Amidst the uproar, a singular voice rose above the others, a sharp, commanding tone that silenced the crowd. Elder Varith, a frail yet formidable figure of the Zarian people, leaned heavily on his crystalline staff as his luminous eyes surveyed the room. "We are out of time," he began, his voice steady despite the turmoil. "The Ankai do not negotiate. They do not retreat. Our fleets are outnumbered, and our defenses are crumbling. We need allies." "But who?" snapped a reptilian envoy, her scaled face twisted in disdain. "Every species we've turned to has refused to intervene. They know the Ankai's wrath will consume anyone who dares oppose them." A heavy silence fell over the chamber, broken only by the faint hum of the holograms. No one dared speak the truth. Everyone was thinking that the Galactic Council itself had grown complacent, relying too heavily on its once unshakable power. Then, from the shadows, a voice filled the room. "Humans," said a silver-skinned delegate, her tone tinged with both hope and hesitation. The room erupted into murmurs and exclamations. Humanity was a name whispered with equal parts awe and unease. Known for their resilience, creativity, and fierce loyalty, the humans had long been a wild card in the galaxy's political landscape. They were an enigma, a species that seemed to thrive in adversity, yet they had chosen to remain on the fringes of galactic politics. "They're unpredictable," another delegate argued. "Their history is filled with war and destruction. Can we really trust them to help? They're the only species capable of standing against the Ankai," Elder Varith countered. "If anyone understands the cost of freedom, it's humanity. They've faced annihilation countless times and emerged stronger for it." As the debate raged on, the holographic display flickered to show a single human figure, standing defiantly before an Ankai dreadnought in a grainy recording from centuries ago. The human's weapon was primitive compared to the Ankai's arsenal, but their courage was undeniable. "Send the request," Varith ordered finally, his tone brooking no argument. "If humanity answers our call, they may be our last chance." On Earth, the call for aid arrived like a whisper in the storm. Deep within the Andes Mountains, hidden from prying eyes, was humanity's central command, a sprawling underground network of advanced technology and military precision. Commander Elara Hayes, a battle-hardened strategist with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind, stood before the holographic projection of Elder Varith. She listened intently as he detailed the Council's plight, his words carrying the weight of desperation. "You ask a great deal," Elara said when he finished. Her voice was measured, her expression unreadable. "Humanity has kept to itself for good reason. The galaxy has never welcomed us, only feared us." Varith bowed his head, acknowledging the truth of her words. "We were wrong to isolate you. But now, we have no choice. The Ankai will not stop until every civilization falls beneath their rule. If they succeed, humanity will not be spared." Elara studied him for a long moment before turning to her second-in-command, Captain Jace Torin. "What do you think?" Jace, a towering figure with an easy smile that belied his deadly efficiency, crossed his arms. "We've been preparing for something like this for years. If we don't act now, the Ankai won't stop with Nicara Prime. They'll come for Earth eventually." Elara nodded, her decision made. "Very well," she said, turning back to Varith. "We'll help. But understand this, we don't fight for the Galactic Council. We fight for the innocent lives at stake. And when this is over, we expect the Council to remember who stood with them when no one else would." Days later, the skies above Nicara Prime were no longer the sole domain of the Ankai. Humanity's fleet arrived like an avenging storm, their ships sleek and bristling with cutting-edge weaponry. At their forefront was the flagship Aegis, a marvel of engineering and a testament to humanity's relentless drive to adapt and overcome. Elara stood on the bridge of the Aegis, her gaze fixed on the tactical display. "Deploy the vanguard," she ordered, her voice calm yet resolute. Jace grinned as he donned his combat gear. "Time to show the galaxy what humans are made of." As the first wave of human forces descended onto the battlefield, they moved with precision and purpose. Where the Council's troops had faltered, humanity's soldiers pressed forward, their unconventional tactics confounding the Ankai at every turn. Among the chaos, one Ankai commander watched in disbelief from his command post. These humans were unlike any enemy he had faced before. They were relentless, their strategies unpredictable. They adapted to every countermeasure, turning the tide of battle with an efficiency that bordered on terrifying. But what struck him most was their unity. The humans fought not as individuals but as a cohesive force, each soldier trusting the others implicitly. It was a stark contrast to the Ankai, whose strength lay in brute force and intimidation. As the day wore on, it became clear that the humans were not just fighting to win, they were fighting to protect. Every civilian they rescued, every life they saved, was a blow to the Ankai's morale. By nightfall, the tide had shifted. The Ankai, for the first time in centuries, were forced to retreat. Their once unstoppable war machine had been brought to its knees by a species they had underestimated. As the human forces regrouped, Elara stood amidst the ruins of Nicara Prime, her expression unreadable. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Humanity had made its mark, but now they would have to prove they were more than just warriors. They were protectors, allies, and perhaps even a beacon of hope in a galaxy teetering on the edge of despair. This was only the beginning. The aftermath of the battle on Nicara Prime was both a victory and a warning. Humanity's intervention had turned the tide, but the scars left behind by the Ankai were a stark reminder of the cost. Craters marred the once thriving cities, and the sky was a dull haze from the fires that still smoldered. Yet, amidst the ruins there was hope, a fragile ember rekindled by the presence of humanity. On the Aegis, Commander Elara Hayes convened her team in the war room. The holographic display before them projected the galaxy's current state, marking the systems already under Ankai control. The spread of red markers was alarming. Captain Jace Torn leaned back in his chair, his usual grin replaced by a grim expression. "We hit them hard on Nicara, but the Ankai won't take this lying down. They'll regroup and retaliate." Elara nodded, her sharp gaze fixed on the map. "That's exactly what we need to prevent. We can't just play defense, we have to disrupt their momentum. If we strike their supply lines and key outposts, we can force them into a reactive position." The room buzzed with quiet determination. Among the officers was Dr. Serena Kale, an expert in xenopsychology. She cleared her throat, drawing attention. "We also need to understand why the Ankai are so relentless. They don't conquer like other empires. They annihilate. There's something deeper driving them." Elara's brow furrowed. "Do you have a theory?" Dr. Kale hesitated, then brought up an ancient Ankai symbol on the display. "Their actions are almost ritualistic. I believe they're driven by a religious or cultural imperative, something they see as destiny. If we can uncover what fuels their ideology, we might find a way to undermine it." Jace raised an eyebrow. "You're saying we should dig into their culture while they're out there raising planets?" "Knowledge is power," Serena replied firmly. "If we understand them, we can predict their moves. Maybe even find a way to stop them without more bloodshed." Elara considered this, her mind racing. "Fine. But we can't afford to wait. Serena, assemble a team and start gathering intel. Jace, you'll lead a strike on their forward outpost at Vecca 9. We need to hit them where it hurts." The mission to Vecca 9 was a high-risk operation. The Ankai outpost was heavily fortified, but its location was critical. It served as a hub for their supply lines. If humanity could take it out, they would cripple the Ankai's ability to wage war in this sector. Jace and his team approached the planet under the cover of a decoy fleet, using cutting-edge stealth technology to evade detection. The Aegis remained on standby in orbit, ready to provide support if needed. The team landed just outside the outpost, the air thick with tension. Jace glanced at his squad, each member a seasoned operative with a reputation for getting the impossible done. "Remember," he said, his voice low but firm. "We're not here to win a firefight. We're here to shut this place down and get out." Moving with precision, the team infiltrated the outpost. The Ankai, confident in their defenses, were caught off guard. Jace's team disabled key systems, planting EMP charges on critical infrastructure. As they worked, they encountered resistance. The Ankai soldiers were formidable, their sheer physical presence intimidating. Yet humanity's operatives were relentless, their training and ingenuity giving them the upper hand. In the chaos, Jace stumbled upon something unexpected, a massive chamber filled with artifacts and inscriptions. At its center was a glowing orb, pulsating with an eerie light. "Serena would have a field day with this," Jace muttered, signaling his team to secure the area. He sent a live feed back to the Aegis. On the ship, Serena's eyes widened as she analyzed the images. "That's an Ankai relic. It's ancient, older than their recorded history. If it's here, it must be important. Important enough to take with us?" Jace asked. Serena hesitated. "If we can transport it safely, yes. It could hold the key to understanding their motivations." "Understood." Jace signaled for extraction. Back on the Aegis, the relic was placed in a secure containment field. Serena and her team began their analysis, poring over the inscriptions. What they uncovered was both shocking and chilling. "The Ankai believe in something called the cycle of ascension," Serena explained during the debriefing. "They see themselves as the chosen species, destined to cleanse the galaxy of inferior civilizations. It's not just ideology, it's faith. They think they're fulfilling a divine mandate." Elara's expression darkened. "And they won't stop until they've purged the galaxy." "Exactly," Serena confirmed. "But here's the thing, their relics suggest this isn't the first time they've tried. There are references to an ancient war, one where their predecessors were defeated." Jace leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Defeated by who?" Serena hesitated, then brought up an image of a shattered inscription. The translation was incomplete, but one word stood out. "Unity." "It's vague," Serena admitted. "But it suggests that the Ankai were stopped by an alliance of civilizations. If we can rally the galaxy against them, we might have a chance." Elara's mind raced. Humanity had made an impact on the battlefield, but to truly defeat the Ankai, they would need allies, species who had long written them off as dangerous or unpredictable. "We need to show the galaxy what we're fighting for," Elara said finally. "Not just survival, but the freedom of every species to exist without fear. If we can inspire them, we can win." Meanwhile, the Ankai were not idle. News of humanity's involvement had reached the High Command, and they were furious. The loss of Vecca 9 was a blow to their campaign, but it also revealed a dangerous new enemy. In the shadowy halls of an Ankai dreadnought, Supreme Commander Zyron convened with his advisors. "Humanity has meddled in our plans," he growled, his voice a low rumble. "They must be dealt with before they inspire others to defy us. But they are unlike any foe we've faced," one advisor cautioned. "Their adaptability is unsettling." Zyron's gaze hardened. "Then we will show them no mercy. Prepare the fleet. Humanity's defiance ends now." The war was escalating, and humanity was at the center of it. The question was no longer whether they could fight. It was whether they could lead the galaxy in the fight for its very survival. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so silent. The delegates from countless species, each representing their homeworlds and cultures, sat in stunned disbelief as the recordings of humanity's actions played on the central holoprojector. Images of the Ankai's relentless destruction filled the room, followed by the harrowing footage of humanity's intervention, daring strikes, selfless rescues, and the fiery defiance of a species unwilling to yield. Elara Hayes stood at the center of the chamber, her presence commanding attention. She wasn't there to plead or beg. Humanity had done enough of that in the past. This time, her voice carried a weight that demanded respect. We warned you about the Ankai, Elara began, her tone measured but firm. When they came for us, we stood alone. We fought back, not because we wanted war, but because we had no choice. And now, they're coming for all of you. The assembly erupted into murmurs and whispers, some delegates exchanging uneasy glances. A towering Merkin delegate with luminescent scales stood. Your actions on Nicara Prime were reckless. You risked the lives of countless civilians. And yet you expect us to, what? Follow your example? Elara met his gaze unflinchingly. Yes, she said simply. Because standing by and doing nothing isn't an option anymore. The Ankai don't negotiate. They don't offer terms. They annihilate. Jace Torin, seated among the human delegation, leaned toward Serena Kale. Think they're buying it? He whispered. Serena shook her head slightly. They're terrified. And terrified leaders make bad decisions. Elara continued, her voice rising. You've seen the evidence. This isn't just about humanity or Nicara Prime. The Ankai are an existential threat to every civilization in this room. If we don't unite now, there won't be a galactic council left to argue in. She activated another projection, a detailed map of Ankai-controlled territories spreading like a red stain across the galaxy. This is what we're up against. Alone, we're vulnerable. Together, we have a chance. The chamber fell silent again, the weight of her words sinking in. Finally, a diminutive Zorvian delegate, her eyes like shimmering pools, spoke up. What do you propose, Commander Hayes? Elara took a deep breath. An alliance. Not just in name, but in action. We pool our resources, share intelligence, and fight as one. Humanity has already shown that the Ankai can be beaten. But we can't do it alone. The Council's deliberations dragged on for hours, and by the end, it was clear that not everyone was willing to commit. Many species, still reeling from their losses or clinging to the hope that they could remain neutral, abstained. But a coalition began to form, a fragile but determined alliance of those who understood the stakes. As the council session ended, Elara and her team returned to the Aegis. The tension on the bridge was palpable as they awaited news of the Ankai's next move. It came sooner than expected. Commander, a communications officer called out. We've intercepted a distress signal from the Lyran system. It's an Ankai fleet. They're launching a full-scale assault. Elara's jaw tightened. How far are we? 3 hours at maximum warp. Set course, she ordered. And send word to the coalition. If they're serious about standing together, this is their chance to prove it. The Lyran system was a maelstrom of chaos when the Aegis arrived. The Ankai fleet dwarfed the defenders, their ships massive and bristling with weapons. Lyran cities burned beneath the onslaught, their crystalline spires collapsing into rubble. Status report, Elara barked. The Lyran defenses are crumbling, her tactical officer replied. They won't last much longer. Jace stepped onto the bridge, his expression grim. What's the plan, Commander? We can't take on that fleet alone. Elara's lips curved into a determined smile. We're not alone. As if on cue, the coalition fleet began to drop out of warp. Ships of every shape and size filled the void, their combined firepower dwarfing even the Ankai armada. The sight was breathtaking, a united front of species who had once been divided by fear and mistrust. Open a channel to all ships, Elara said. When the connection was made, she spoke with the clarity of a leader who knew what was at stake. This is Commander Hayes of the Aegis. The Ankai have brought their war to the Lyran system, but today, we show them the strength of unity. Target their command ships and hold nothing back. Let's give them a reason to fear. The battle that followed was nothing short of apocalyptic. The coalition's ships surged forward, their weapons lighting up the void. The Ankai, caught off guard by the sheer size of the force arrayed against them, struggled to regroup. But they were relentless, their war machines designed for devastation. Jace led a strike team in a daring assault on an Ankai dreadnought, the massive vessel looming like a fortress in the void. The mission was perilous, but the stakes demanded nothing less. Inside the dreadnought, Jace and his team fought through waves of Ankai soldiers, their progress slow but steady. At the heart of the ship, they found their target, a control nexus powering the entire fleet. "This is it," Jace said, setting the charges. "Let's blow this thing and get out of here." As they retreated, the dreadnought began to tremble, explosions ripping through its structure. The sight of the massive ship collapsing into itself was a turning point in the battle. The Ankai fleet, leaderless and disoriented, began to falter. Hours later, the battlefield was silent. The coalition had emerged victorious, though the cost was steep. Ships drifted, damaged but intact, their crews tending to the wounded and mourning the lost. On the bridge of the Aegis, Elara addressed the coalition leaders via hologram. "Today, we proved that the Ankai are not invincible. But this is just the beginning. They'll come back, stronger and more determined. If we want to win this war, we need to stay united." The leaders nodded, their resolve hardened by the victory. The battle for the Lyran system was a turning point, not just in the war, but in the galaxy's history. For the first time, species who had once been adversaries were fighting side by side, their differences set aside for a common cause. And at the heart of it all was humanity, a species that had once been seen as reckless and unpredictable, now leading the charge against an enemy that threatened them all. The aftermath of the battle for the Lyran system echoed throughout the galaxy. The coalition had won, but the victory came at a cost: ships reduced to wreckage, lives lost in the chaos, and the grim understanding that the Ankai threat was far from vanquished. Still, the spark of unity ignited by the battle burned brighter than ever, and the War Council convened aboard the Aegis to determine their next move. Elara Hayes stood before a gathering of holographic projections, leaders, military strategists, and diplomats from the coalition's disparate species. The room buzzed with muted tension as they reviewed the battle's outcome and discussed strategies for the future. "Make no mistake," Elara said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "This was a victory, but it's only the beginning. The Ankai will retaliate, and when they do, it'll be with everything they have. We need to take the fight to them." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Among the projections, a Grakath general with mottled green skin and a gravelly voice spoke up. "A direct assault on Ankai territory is suicide. Their homeworlds are fortified, their fleets endless. What you suggest is impossible." Jace Torin, leaning casually against the console, smirked. "Impossible is our specialty," he said, earning a faint grin from Serena Kale beside him. Elara held up a data pad, displaying a star map riddled with red markers. "This isn't about attacking their homeworlds," she explained. "The Ankai's war machine relies on a series of supply hubs, resource worlds and manufacturing centers that keep their fleets operational. If we target these hubs, we cripple their ability to sustain the war." A murmur of agreement rippled through the council, though some remained skeptical. A tall, crystalline, virulent diplomat chimed in, her voice melodic but firm. "And what of the worlds already under Ankai control? Billions of lives hang in the balance. Can we afford to ignore them?" Elara's expression hardened. "We won't ignore them. Liberation is part of the plan. But we can't save those worlds if we lose this war. Disrupting their supply lines is the first step toward victory." The coalition's first strike was a daring assault on a heavily guarded Ankai refinery orbiting a gas giant. The operation required precision, coordination, and nerves of steel. Jace, Serena, and their strike team were at the forefront, infiltrating the station, while the coalition fleet provided cover. As they made their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the refinery, the team encountered fierce resistance. The Ankai fought with brutal efficiency, their advanced weaponry and combat tactics pushing the humans and their allies to their limits. "This place is a fortress," Serena muttered, firing her pulse rifle at an advancing squad of Ankai soldiers. "How much farther?" Jace checked his scanner, his brow furrowed. "The reactor's just ahead. Once we overload it, we'll have about 5 minutes to get out before this whole place goes up." Elara's voice crackled over the comms. "We're taking heavy fire out here. Whatever you're doing, make it fast." The team pressed on, finally reaching the reactor room. It was a cavernous chamber filled with humming machinery and streams of glowing energy. Jace and Serena worked quickly to set the charges, their movements synchronized like a well-rehearsed dance. As the last charge was armed, an Ankh commander burst into the room, flanked by a squad of elite soldiers. The ensuing firefight was intense, the confined space amplifying every explosion and burst of energy. Jace took a hit to the shoulder but managed to disable the commander with a well-placed shot. "Time to go!" he shouted, clutching his injury as the team made their escape. The refinery erupted in a blinding explosion, the shockwave rippling through space. The Coalition fleet withdrew, their mission a success. The Ankai had been dealt a critical blow, their war efforts slowed by the loss of a key resource hub. The months that followed were marked by a series of strategic victories. The Coalition, now operating as a unified force, liberated occupied worlds and dismantled the Ankai's supply network piece by piece. Each victory strengthened their resolve and weakened the Ankai's grip on the galaxy. But the war's turning point came during the Battle of Altheris Prime, a pivotal conflict that would determine the fate of the Coalition. The Ankai launched a massive counteroffensive, their fleet dwarfing anything the Coalition had faced before. The battle was fought on a scale that defied comprehension, with ships clashing across entire star systems. Elara, aboard the Aegis, coordinated the Coalition's efforts, her leadership proving instrumental in holding the line. Jace and Serena, leading ground forces on Altheris Prime's surface, faced insurmountable odds as they fought to disable an Ankai planetary shield generator. Amid the chaos, an unexpected ally emerged. The Zorvians, a reclusive species known for their advanced technology and pacifist ways, joined the fight, their sleek, energy-based ships cutting through the Ankai fleet with devastating precision. "We couldn't stand by any longer," the Zorvian leader said in a broadcast to the Coalition. "Humanity's courage has inspired us to act." With the Zorvians' help, the Coalition turned the tide. The shield generator was destroyed, and the Ankai fleet was routed. Altheris Prime was liberated, and the Ankai were forced into a retreat. The war didn't end that day, but it marked the beginning of the end. The Ankai, once seen as invincible, were now on the defensive, their empire crumbling under the weight of the Coalition's onslaught. In the aftermath, the Galactic Council reconvened, this time with humanity at the forefront. Elara Hayes, hailed as a hero, addressed the assembly one last time. "This war has shown us what we're capable of when we stand together," she said. "Humanity was once seen as reckless, unpredictable, even dangerous. But we've proven that our greatest strength lies in our ability to fight for what's right, not just for ourselves, but for all of you." The chamber erupted into applause, a rare moment of unity in a galaxy still healing from the scars of war. As Elara stepped down, Jace and Serena joined her, their bond forged in the crucible of battle. The galaxy was forever changed, and humanity's place among the stars was solidified, not as conquerors, but as protectors. And though the Ankai threat had been vanquished, the memory of humanity's defiance would endure, a testament to the power of unity and the unyielding spirit of a species that refused to be underestimated.